Hello.
Okay.
Is this good? You can hear?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Cool, my man. I'm here with Zac Scheinbaum. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, of course.
We're in the basement of Red Point Tattoo in London. You're doing a guest spot here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. A few days at Seven Doors, or I guess it just turned into one day and then a few days here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Where's Seven Doors?
It's in the fashion district.
Uh-huh. Is it far from here? I haven't been there yet.
I have no idea. It's far enough.
Far enough, yeah.
Maybe a 40-minute walk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very excited that you would to join us, and maybe it's a little bit different because you've been doing a lot of interviews lately,
Mm-hmm.
and now you're on the chopping block, I guess.
Yeah.
The newest thing that just came out was the volume of Afterlife, and I just got finished reading it, and it's incredible.
Oh, cool.
I
Thank
really
you.
like it. I like the first one, obviously, because you and I have something in common, getting tattooed by Chris, and
Yeah.
and Grimey's in the first volume as well. I just love them because it's, to me, what I look forward into different interviews is like kind of more the sincerity and not the puffed up type of look at it. It's just kind of more raw.
Totally.
Yeah. Would you mind sharing with us why you even started that project?
I just did it because I thought that, like you were saying a few minutes ago about people listening now instead of reading, I guess I missed the reading, and I missed good reading with tattooing, things that would make me excited about tattooing again, and a way to sort of freeze where these people were in time at this moment so that we could remember where they had come from and show their past work and past lives up to this point. And I tried to focus on people a little bit older who had a little more experience with actual life than also tattooing, so that we would have a conversation that wasn't the same as I've read in every other magazine or book.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I often make a joke when I do the podcast where it's like it's a podcast with tattooers, and we try to avoid talking about tattoo.
Yeah.
Because there's obviously a lot more to people than just
Totally.
making tattoos and stuff.
And that was my goal was to not ask, so when did you start tattooing? I was like, how do I not ask that question?
Right.
But it came out anyway.
Mhm.
You start talking and that story comes out of people naturally, but it just sounds better if you don't have to force it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember because I was getting tattooed by Chris, and I think it was like one of the appointments I was there, you guys had just finished up taking photos, and so his whole private studio was all in disarray. All the pictures were down and stuff.
Awesome.
From that very beginning, I was excited for it to come out, and
Awesome.
and I thought it was smart. What you guys did was kind of hold back some of the work for the release of the book, and because I think it made the book more special that way as well.
That's really important to me. It's definitely not doable with everyone.
Mhm.
Some people really like the internet and they really like to post. It's like a addiction, so you just get what you can get. But luckily Grime's really easy. Chris was very forthcoming with it. So, hopefully it will be like, it will create something where people see it and they realize that if they're asked to be in it, that is important. So that I don't have to like stress like, hey, maybe don't post everything you do, maybe 1 out of 5 tattoos or something.
Yeah.
So that is like the struggle, because I don't want someone to be looking at Instagram printed.
Mm-hmm.
It's not interesting.
Right.
I mean, it's still cool to see a tattoo bigger than the screen,
Mm-hmm.
even if they've already seen it, but it's just not it's not new.
Yeah. No, it's nice because with the books, it forces you to slow down and kind of appreciate it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that when I was reading the books, I was kind of remembering that about all the books that have in my collection as well. It's like if I'm online or Instagram, it's just a flash. I see something and go to the next thing, And I do it without even really paying attention.
Yeah.
But the book really forces you to kind of look. And so some of these tattoos I've kind of seen before, but like you said, on a smaller screen, then I was actually really able to study them, you know, kind of like when I got like the Tattoo Times, and you got to read some of the small articles next to it. And
totally.
Yeah, it kind of brought me back to that feeling again, which was cool. I didn't expect that, but it was like a byproduct of having it printed and going back and forth.
I mean, that's exactly what I would have wanted. Tattoo 10 was the first thing ever given to me to read when I got into the shop. Yeah. So that was like, those feelings are really powerful for me, and I wanted that again, and I hadn't felt it in a long time. So yeah, but it's weird making them. I still don't feel it because I don't get the book and then sit there and read it like that. I like don't look at it again because I've spent too much time with it, you know? Sure. So
yeah, it's a shame you don't get to appreciate it like we would. Yeah,
it's much different on this side, but it's still fun. It makes me want to keep making them.
That's good.
Yeah.
The first one you did, was it kind of like a trial, or did you have something in mind where you were like, okay, maybe this is something we're going to keep going at and doing?
Well, I had a bunch of ideas. We talked to O'Donnell and Grez, and I was like, oh, I have these ideas, and they were like, it's boring, or I've seen it before. Or... And then I just started stripping the ideas back to like, okay, what would it be really just simple but awesome to look at? And then I sort of wrote a proposal and just sent it to both of them, and Chris was like, I'll do it. I'll be the first one to do it. So yeah, it was cool because working next to Chris for almost 8 years, we got to know each other pretty well, and he's excited about trying these new things, I feel like.
Sure.
And getting to sit next to him, we would get to sort of brainstorm and be like, oh, this would be cool, or this would be cool in person. So it wasn't as abstract as going to Grime, who I didn't know that well at that time. So it was like nice to be able to have someone that I was in communication with on a daily basis to sort of talk through the problems or thought process of the first one.
Right.
So yeah. And then I made a list of like 60 or 70 tattooers that I wanted to put in the books. But then the pairing became pretty hard. So that was just sort of a slow figuring it out. And I asked the artists who they would want to be with too.
Oh, okay.
And try for that. So, yeah.
Yeah, and Chris and Grimy have a background.
Yeah.
And that works out.
And Chris mentioned, he was like, oh, do me and Grime. And I was like, I don't know him that well. I don't think he'll say yes to this. And but it ended up working out.
Yeah.
So.
Was it intimidating to initiate?
Yeah. I mean, I got tattooed by Grime when I was 18 or 19.
Okay.
So I'd met him, and then, I'd said I'd been into the shop a bunch just to say hey and sort of fan out, and then I had made an appointment to get my arm done before this book thing started, and the appointment was far away, but it was coming up as this idea was coming up. So when I went out to get it started, Chris was like, oh, maybe I'll text him and tell him you want to pitch an idea to him and that I think it's a pretty good idea. So I was getting tattooed and I just was like, hey, so can I talk to you about this thing? And he was like, yep. Chris told me you're going to say something. So what, give me what are you thinking? And I went into this like whole thing I thought about for a long time. And then he was like, all right, dude, stop. It's fine. Yeah, I'll do it. Just stop talking about it. I was like, okay, cool.
That's relieving.
Yeah. So it was intimidating, but he was like, yeah, sure, whatever. So
now the process, was it kind of similar to this? Like you just kind of sit down and just chat, or did you kind of like prepare some questions? Or
I had questions, but it was more like thoughts that I wrote down, just little subjects that I wanted to talk about, but no specific questions, because I wanted it to feel like a conversation.
Right.
But it was also important to me that it wasn't printed as a conversation. I wanted the artist to have full control over their interview. So we'd do the interviews, and I wanted it to be casual to where we weren't uncomfortable and I could spend time with them, and we were, more than an hour. I want to spend a few days so that we actually had different interviews in different places.
Yeah.
Like if we're just hanging out, something interesting comes up, turn on the recorder, and then you get a little piece of something, and then all that edited into like a piece of writing, quote unquote, that looks like an interview that's not, because the writing's been changed.
Sure.
The ums and fucks have been taken out, and everything is like, it just reads smoothly. So that was really, really important, because I've read all these interviews and they're so boring at times. You're like, okay, come on, man.
Yeah, get to the point.
Drag on. Like so I found a real editor, and she went through everything. She doesn't know anything about tattooing. So she was like, oh, this is really interesting. Like learning about all these people and all their different, she would look up everything that was in the book. So
okay, it
was interesting. And then she'll send it back to me, and then I'll send it to Chris and be like, hey, you want to go through your section again? And then he'll go through and change his answers to make them, because when you're being interviewed, you'll be like, I should have said that differently.
Sure.
So it's important to me to have them at least have the opportunity. Some of the artists didn't care. They're like, yeah, it looks great, fine, sure. And then some people wanted months of going over it.
Right.
Yeah.
I can understand that, because when it is printed, it is almost like gospel in a way,
Totally.
So I can understand that.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. I mean, I assumed a lot was going into it. I didn't realize you had like an editor as well, and
yeah,
which is good, because as tattooers, you have enough on your plate just preparing tattoos and doing all this stuff.
Yeah, and I'm horrible at writing, so it was important that there wasn't a ton of typos, and I've found some now, but hopefully we'll just keep catching them, because a lot of the magazines and stuff I've read, they always have typos and reprints and all this stuff, and it really bums me out, because it makes tattooing seem lesser than as an art form. And I think that if an art book is presented in a certain way, a tattoo art book should be presented in the same.
Yeah, give it the same respect as everything else. Yeah. And did you know Garver and Horitomo well before you approached them?
No.
Yeah.
Actually, neither of them. I had met Tomo. I took that seminar he did.
What seminar?
He did a few seminars on like the immovable book on Fudo Mio. Yeah. So I'd done that, and I got like a book from him, but I didn't know him at all. I knew Taki, and that's how I asked Taki to sort of pitch the idea to Taki, and Taki was like, let me think about it. It took a few months, and then they were like, yeah, sure. And then Garver, I've met a bunch just because he would come into the shops to say hey to Chris and Mike and them, but by no means knew him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just officially met him like a couple weeks ago.
Oh, cool.
And I was kind of a little fanboy. I was like,
awesome.
Hi, and
yeah,
I'm uncomfortable. And even today yesterday at the convention, I was just like,
hey,
I'm going to put my foot in my mouth a couple times, and hopefully you won't remember me.
Yeah. He's super nice.
Yeah.
He was really easy. You could tell he's like professional interview.
I bet by this point.
Yeah. So, yeah, his was pretty easy to go through.
And it was great, the history of New York tattooing.
Yeah.
That he talked about there, and I was kind of glad you guys didn't talk too much about the Miami Ink portion of it. Yeah,
I just wanted to know why. I thought that was, and really the answer is why not. So I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know what anyone would do in that position, and I thought it was cool to hear his side of that. Yeah. So. Yeah, I often think of that as well, like somebody coming to you and offering you an opportunity. Yeah. And it's at that time it's the total unknown. Yeah, never been done. Yeah. So, nowadays we know what to expect if somebody offers you something like that, and but he managed to kept tattooing the forefront, I think, throughout the whole thing, and I think he's just so good that the work surpasses whatever type of judgment anyone would put on someone for doing a show, whether they like it or not. As he really wins both worlds, because he's respected by people who watch the tattoo TV shows
Yeah.
because he's nice and awesome at tattooing, and he's respected by every tattooer because he's amazing. So
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's definitely one of my favorite tattooers for sure.
yeah, he's so good.
And with the Horitomo section,
Mm-hmm.
that was pretty interesting. Like the process, I didn't expect that much in the book. I thought it was going to be more like the other ones, like kind of background and stuff.
Yeah,
But I thought it was a good balance too, because my personal leanings is like, don't give out too much information on the tattooing.
yeah,
But it was like a really good balance where it was just kind of like surface layer,
yeah,
where the people that already kind of know get it, and people who don't know, it's just like a glimmer of like something that's a little bit like the tip of the iceberg or something
Yeah.
like that. And it just made him look even more impressive, I think, of how much work he puts into one tattoo.
totally. With O'Donnell and Grime, how Grime felt about being copied, things like that, so I shot everything at an angle. With the photographer, we made sure no photo was shown too straight on of like the drawing. But as we were designing, I was like, man, this would be so much better if I just showed everything. And then when we were interviewing Tomo, Taki was the one. I was like, hey, can I like shoot all these drawings? Tomo had a giant stack of drawings for tattoos, all the exact same size, all done with a brush.
Wow.
Like, they're all perfect, just in a big pile. And we were like, can we shoot these straight on also? And we'll shoot them at angles and stuff. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, man, it'd be really nice. I don't know what Tomo would feel or be okay with, but it'd be really nice to show these drawings right on the tattoos, like sort of how a tracing would be.
Right.
And Taki was like, you should just do whatever you think would be best. And if he says no, we'll change it.
Right.
But he's like, you may as well shoot for the top and then see what happens. So I guess I was just like, all right, well, let's see what happens. Let's really try and show everything. And I think that Tomo's mind was more like, I'm already putting the tattoos in the book. So I want you to know what went into them in every aspect.
Right.
And I think so he was more than okay sharing that. Yeah. Which is crazy, but awesome. And it makes for so much better of a read.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gave a lot of good stories about the background history of the motifs. And that was really, really cool. And I often have a lot of these kind of conversations about talking with people who do Japanese or Japanese-inspired work. And some people who do Japanese-inspired work wouldn't even consider it like Japanese.
Yeah.
What I kind of gathered from Tomo is very, very Japanese, but there's a lot of exceptions to the rule as well. What I gathered, and it kind of threw me for a loop as well, because I was expecting, I guess, like very kind of strict policies on design, but he really did the research, and I think that's the important part. He did the research, and then he picked and chose the different stories from different sources, and then chose how he would represent that. And that was really impressive that he would have that many options to go through.
Totally. Yeah. I think to him, just getting Japanese tattooing out there in any way is great. So if other people are interested in doing it, that's great. And I think that he seems very supportive of that, is what I gathered, because it just seems like, I don't know, it's such a difficult type of tattooing if you don't do it and you want to get into it. And I mean, I guess if you're like me, I can't say this for everyone, but it's very daunting as like a subject matter because of all the rules that I don't know.
Yeah.
It makes me not even want to try because I know I'll just ruin it, But he was so much more like, oh, yeah, you can try. Like, everyone could, because, I think that was one of the questions, and there was like, what about non-Japanese people doing this work? And it was just interesting to hear his response was much more open. Yeah, and inviting, and just wanting to make it more widely known.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's super good. really appreciate that you're going through these lengths to do that. And from what I gather, it seems a more authentic look at the individual artist. And you, I know you don't have to talk about the future about it, but maybe you do have some ideas of doing this again in the future on a third volume.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I'm here actually in London. So
great.
Yeah, we're doing the third one. Well, I've been doing it for almost a year already.
Oh wow!
They just take a really long time. So this was the last thing I needed was London for it, because there's going to be 5 people in this one instead of 3 or instead of 2.
Wow! So
it's going to be like a much bigger book. It might be 2 volumes in a slipcase. I don't know. All this stuff we haven't gotten that far.
Sure.
We're just on the collection side. So all the drawings, all the photographs of the people, all the interviews, everything, that part's pretty good. But now we just need to collect the tattoos, and then we can start doing the design and all that. So
that's exciting.
Yeah. And then we have many other books we're doing now that Afterlife will publish, but they won't be in the volumes.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Separate category.
Yeah. Exactly. Just like published by Afterlife Press, but it's the blah, blah, blah book on this or something, you know. So yeah, we have a lot going.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
And it's done really well. Like the second volume sold out almost instantly in the States. And
yeah, it was very quick. Thank you to everyone. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's gold in a sense, because it is it's something with substance, and I think a lot of people in general, not just tattooers, or really have a desire for something like that, where they're just like, they don't want some sort of spoon-fed, flashy type of thing. It's like something that you can relate to and get inspired by.
Yeah. It's like sort of cruel, and I don't mean it to be that way, but like I want them to sell out quick and no one to be able to get them, because I want, when they are released, I want it to feel like the same excitement I would have for something that's limited. Be like, oh, and that's why we're not reprinting them.
Yeah.
Or don't have plans to do any of that right now. It's just like, this is it. So if you get it, that's awesome.
And it's only 1,000 or 2,000 at a time?
The first one was 1,000, but there's not that many available, because the artists get some copies and I get some, and some are given to everyone that worked on it gets a pile, so it's like, there's not that many. Of the first one, there's really not that many.
Right.
The second one, we did 1,500. And there were probably about 1,000 or so for sale, and the printer printed less than 1,500 accidentally, and they were like, well, that we use all the paper, so that's it. So there aren't actually 1,500 copies, but it says there are.
Yeah.
But they were like, we can't print the extra ones, because then we have to order all the paper in bulk, and you have to buy it by the ton or something. So yeah, it is what it is, but it's still great.
But it's good that it does sell out quickly, because then it just helps you to do what you're doing. Because the biggest shame is to have like a ton of books that you're just sitting on that have good content, but unfortunately people just don't get it yet.
Yeah.
But it's good that people can understand it right away, and
they're catching on.
Yeah. And then you, I think, are a good author or a judge of character. At least the genre of tattooing that I like, so hopefully that will help to kind of promote that as well, because I think in the grand scheme of tattooing, this area is becoming less and less popular in the mainstream of things.
Yeah.
It's good that there can be more of it, and just legitimizes it even more.
Totally. I mean, that is a fear of mine with the people I choose to be in the books. I think their work is great. Obviously, that's why I would want to put that much work into making them something. But there's always that like, oh man, is this going to sell? Because if it doesn't, how are we going to make another one? Because they pay for each other to be made. So as we start making more, like there's other people I'd really love to put in, like you were saying about the podcast, like getting more people out there in the light.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew we had to start really big or it wouldn't get any attention.
Yeah.
So starting at the top, and I don't want to go down, quote unquote, from the top. I just want to showcase other people I think are there that maybe are less known or things like that. So trying to figure out ways to do that is scary because the books, you know, a lot goes into making them. So it's like, how much time and energy is this worth? Like, is this going to work?
Yeah.
But yeah, we're trying to think of other ways to do books on other artists too.
That'd be great.
So
yeah. And do you want to talk a little bit about yourself other than the book?
only if you want to know stuff.
Yeah. I just wanted to know how things were going in San Francisco, because when we first met, it was in New York, and then it's a pretty big move going from New York to California.
Did we meet at Saved or King's?
I believe we met at King's Ave.
Okay.
When I was getting my back started.
Okay, yeah.
But I became familiar with your work when you were working at Saved.
Okay.
But then, yeah, we never actually officially met until then.
I guess I was just sort of done with New York after it was almost 9 years, and I worked with all these different people and all these different shops and learned a lot and saw all kinds of different experiences and how people approach work, and it just made me feel stagnant in a way. I wanted more artistic direction with my own work, and that opportunity to work in San Francisco with other people I looked up to that could help me. And every time I guest spotted out there, they were very forthcoming and aggressive with the critiquing, and I really liked that. It is always very frustrating to me when someone asks for help on a tattoo drawing, and we all put in time and energy, and then they tattoo it exactly how they drew it. So I always try to take into consideration what people are saying. It's very important to me to be criticized in that way.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like I was getting it enough. Maybe I wasn't asking for it enough, or I just became too comfortable in New York. So San Francisco was a big move, but it was also a move I was like, it's not home. I'm not going to stay there forever. It's just something I want to do for a little while.
Right.
So it's been really hard for me, actually. But the last 6 months have gotten much better.
That's good. And how long have you been there now?
It's been a year and a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's really important, what you're talking about with the getting critiques from everybody. And, you know, it's something I do a lot of when I'm at Royal Tattoo. And
Totally.
And, you know, it's just, even people that don't particularly do the same style, they're able to see something. You know, it might be with the balance of a design, or I don't know, just something that sticks out weird, and they're able to spot it.
Totally.
But then it's good to hear something like that from you, because from an outside perspective, it's like the work you do looks pretty damn flawless.
Thanks.
For me to hear that, like, okay, there's somebody who is doing such clean and accurate work, and they're still asking for help. And it shows a lot, I think, about the character, you know, where it's like you're just not going to rest on your laurels and just get by with the same kind of tricks, I guess, and you're just constantly trying to motivate yourself and push yourself.
I mean, I don't feel like I have any idea what I'm doing, and usually don't like my tattoos at all, so
good.
The set is good. But I think it's important. If people don't feel that way, then you should just quit.
Yeah, you're at least not going to develop, I think, at a more rapid pace.
Yeah.
You know,
I think it shows good character and
humility.
Humility. Yeah. It's smart to want to learn more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think tattooing is just going to get boring if you're not being pushed
Yeah.
I can remember for myself, you get down on my work about not feeling like I'm at the place I feel like I should be.
Yeah.
But in all the time that I've tattooed, I've never felt like I should be. Like I've never been content where I was, even though like I set certain goals, reached them. I was never like, okay, now I can coast. It's like, it's always looking ahead. And
well, it's funny because you make these goals for yourself and then you hit them and you realize that wasn't the goal. That was just, you thought it was a goal, and then you get there and you're like, this isn't what I thought either. It's great, or it's not great, but it's just another way of living, another way of doing stuff. And that's what I realized from working in all these other shops. The shops are just the owner's way of doing things. It's their goal. It's what works for them, which I find really fascinating, because it never works for me, but I always enjoy being there. You know what I mean? I'm like, and I love seeing how their mind works. And that's what you get if you're really paying attention in a shop.
Yeah.
From art to business, all the way through, you're like, oh, this is cool. It's really interesting. And then you sort of be like, okay, this is great for me, or this is not great for me in these ways, but I still want to be here. I think it lets you learn how to live with different situations, and then you learn about yourself through doing that. So,
right.
Yeah.
But it's great you have that drive to get better and to push tattooing for yourself, and I think it's definitely going to inspire people around you in your circles who you work with, because it's good. Like when I see the artists that you put in the books, these are all people that kind of pushed me in the direction to kind of get better, because if I were to like compare myself to them, it would make me, like you were saying earlier, want to quit or something.
Yeah.
But it's not really about that. It's like it's more, I hold those people in appreciation that they're able to push it as far as they have, and it kind of gives me a landmark to kind of go and kind of gauge my own progress. And
Yeah.
you never know, you take chances,
Yeah.
and they might strike out, but I think in the accumulative experience, you're bound to get better.
It's such a slow process. You can't see it till way too late. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, okay, the rose does look good now, but 7 years ago it looked bad.
Right.
But I didn't know, and it's been slowly getting better the whole time. And then in 7 more years, you'll be like, oh, the rose sucked. This is what it is, you know? Yeah.
Now, do you see yourself staying in San Francisco for a while now, or going back to New York, or just the whole plan is up to the cosmos?
I don't see myself staying there too long, but it's just starting to get sort of busy and doing some bigger work, and I'm having a lot of fun there right now. So for now, it feels good. I don't know what I'll do. I don't plan on going back to New York. I don't think. I really have no idea. Yeah, I wish I had a plan, but
that's fine.
I don't. Yeah.
The basic plan is just tattooing and continue with the books.
Totally.
That's great.
Yeah, the books they've sort of made me more excited again to do more stuff. Yeah. So.
Did you have any fears before, when you were kind of, I guess, getting uninspired to like maybe stop tattooing, or were you thinking of like, I just need to shift up everything again?
No, I've never questioned tattooing. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Since, I was 16. I knew that was it. And I've never second guessed it. Like people, I'll go through phases where you're like, oh, this is really hard right now, or this is difficult, but I've never thought I would quit. Yeah. I'd like to make more art. That's important to me. Also, that's not tattoo related necessarily. That was my question for you, is how do you deal, like if you're such a good painter and you can take things in a I don't know, you don't need an outline. You don't, you can realistically portray images. I can't do that. It's really hard for me to do things without a line, without just a solid base. I don't understand underpainting. I get it a little bit. I've done some painting like that, but I find when I work on paper or whatever the flat medium is, it's hard for me to get what I want out of it. And I love old paintings, and that's what you're doing. So how does that translate with tattooing?
I don't think it does. Maybe the only thing I can see that has a direct correlation is maybe drawing, because even though it's painted, I still work with drawing. It might be drawing something in a mass instead of drawing it with a line.
Okay.
So kind of just taking in a whole shape at once and kind of like blocking it in. And you know how if you would like to scribble in like a mass and then take an eraser and scrub it out to fit the right shape, that would be, I think, the way that you could translate it.
Okay.
And the eraser would be just like another color to kind of shape it out.
Sure.
But for me, it was really important to separate the painting and the tattooing, because I believe very firmly like a tattoo should be a tattoo. And I think, like, even though I might do something like classical oil painting, I don't think it has much of a place in tattooing because it's not structurally sound enough for it.
Okay.
And also the range of values. You lose a lot with the tattooing, because you even have like a range that's a range of value that's even compressed more than watercolor would be, because like black in the skin over a couple years is still going to be lighter than black on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And so you really need to have a full range to get the full effect. I think for oil painting, for me, is that you get even a stronger or a wider range of value than watercolor or tattooing. So it's just another outlet for me to kind of express something that I can't get just with tattooing alone.
Okay.
And it's just like an old love. Like when I was a kid, I would be in the museums. My mother would drop me off at the art museums.
Okay.
And then I would just go and study old master paintings. And so those images are just things that always stuck with me, and I always want to kind of like recreate for myself. And
totally,
it was just more of a personal thing.
Okay.
But I love tattoo imagery. I love tattooing, like the tattoo imagery on paper, and I love a lot of stuff what you were doing. Recently you had the art show. It was a collaborative show. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Was that in Germany?
It was in Germany. Yeah.
And who was that with?
With Stace Ferrand, or Water Street Phantom, as everyone knows him. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Those are incredible paintings, and what I like what you're doing, that's because it isn't tattoo imagery.
Yeah.
They're like paintings, and I love how using the silhouettes and some sort of abstract kind of natural forms as well, and then painting in the finer details. I think that's something I haven't seen. It's a very unique approach, and so.
Well, thanks. I mean, I'd like to learn how to do what you do.
Yeah. Well, let's trade.
Okay.
We'll paint together then.
Yeah, it sounds great.
And trade. But yeah, I would definitely appreciate that, to pick up what you have and I have. And it's funny how, you have what you have, and then you're always wanting like something else. And I think we're
just want a look, But it's weird when the look you want has been done before.
Yeah.
But why is it not looked down upon in oil painting to do a still life? Again, the same still life as a master did, but it's looked down on in tattooing to copy the same thing. But it's the same.
It's a different culture.
It's different, but also I've noticed recently with like some Japanese tattooers, they'll be redoing old Japanese tattoos, drawn a little bit better, like perfected in the right way, and I don't look down on it at all. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
But it's just those lines are so finely drawn. I think it depends the level of artistry the person has whether it's an acceptable copy or not. I don't really know. Me and Utaro were talking about this last week in depth, because just, is it okay? Is it okay to copy a dead master? You know what I mean?
Well, when I was studying in Italy, I would go to these weekly lectures with a guy named Charles Cecil. He would always have like this mantra, and he said, nothing comes from nothing.
You gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, and so if you're going to, like, I copy, but it's very distinct between what I copy and what's my work, and so what I copy is more my training.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to show it to anybody. It's more for like, okay, I'm going to...
a warm-up or...
that, or like get acquainted with the colors that the person's using, or how they approach the design.
Okay.
But then I have to take it even further and be like, okay, how would I use the information that I learned from the copy and go from there?
So it's like getting into someone's mind.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'll do this in the style of... and to get into that style, you sort of have to... figure out you have to break down their work
first. I think it's like deconstructing, and then taking the elements that you learn from the deconstructing and then using it for the direction you want to push your own work.
Yeah, that's super cool. I like that.
But I think a lot of the times too, if you're studying too much, then what happens is the work comes out too much like a pastiche in a way.
Totally.
And so it's very important to distance yourself from the study after a while as well.
I mean, bring it back to the books then, because I have thousands of photos of O'Donnell and Tomo and Garver's drawings. Everything is documented. I have it all on the computer.
Right.
I've never once opened it to be like, okay, this dude wants a snake. Let me just see how they did it.
Yeah.
I almost feel like it would betray everything the books are for me, which is a source of inspiration. And I see it once when I put the file in the computer, and that's it. I'll look through the PDF as the books, like I'll make sure everything's correct, but I don't study the work anymore.
Right.
Because I feel like I'm taking advantage of the position. So it's the same thing. You just remember, oh, okay, I think it was like that. Let me draw from what I feel.
Right.
Yeah, and it's okay to be inspired by it. It's just not okay to copy exactly.
And it was funny, I got my front from Chris. I got the Furumayo.
Yeah.
And someone had asked me to do one as well. Yeah. And it was very difficult because the lines from just looking at my own tattoo are burned into my head. Yeah. So everything I was drawing, I was like, it's too much like Chris. Too much Chris. And so it's like, it's funny, like too much inspiration is a detriment, I think.
Yeah, totally. Sure. That's cool.
Awesome. Maybe we can go through how to get in contact with you, and any website or Instagram account that you want to share.
I mean, the spelling's complicated.
Yeah.
Do it one letter at a time. It's ZACSCHEINBAUM @gmail.com or .com, or Instagram the exact same way.
Perfect.
There you go.
And I believe there's still a couple copies left at the Lucky's in Europe.
I believe they had 50 left as of last night.
All right. Well, maybe they're gone by the time this airs.
I don't know. So I feel bad we just talked about it for so long. Everyone's going to be like, God damn it.
No, but they can get the third volume.
Yeah.
And the rest.
Which has a ton of awesome stuff in it.
Awesome. I look forward to it.
Awesome.
Thanks again. This was really, actually really inspiring for me. Because,
thank you.
With you doing the interviews as well, and being such a fanatic about artwork and painting as well.
Yeah. So, thank you. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah.
Cool. Give me a hug.
Thank you, man.
Awkward hug. Try not to make this thing fall.
Yeah, I don't want to knock this.
No.